welcome to the first episode of Cultural Hell 2026. Happy New Year, everyone. With Heather due back from her trip to Australia soon, this bonus episode features a couple of interviews we recorded at the end of last year. The first of which I did with Ule journalist Ronan Browne, who hosts the English language news podcast All Points North. We discuss the podcast as it heads towards another milestone episode and discuss favourite episodes, challenges and more. Secondly, Heather spoke to Hanna Similä, the only airport chaplain in Finland, about what she does and what her job involves at the Helsinki-Vantaa airport. Although a chaplain there, her job has a heavy focus on crisis management and much more. We'll be back next week with an exploration of the district of Malmi, but until then, enjoy these interviews. I'm chatting with Ronan Browne, an English language journalist working for Ule, now entering his 9th year with Finland's respected national media company. Ronan is one of 3 regular hosts on the All Points North podcast, which plugs itself as having everything you need to know about the news in Finland this week. The podcast is broadcast mainly weekly and includes news topics related to politics, integration, cultural issues, and pretty much anything that is relevant to English speakers in Finland, and maybe beyond. Ronan, was that about right?
That sounded very good, yes indeed.
Okay, so you've been doing this quite a long time. Tell us about the basic idea behind the All Points North podcast.
Well, we launched it in 2018. Yle News used to be on television on Yle TV, but that ended in 2017 because it was felt that we weren't really reaching our target audience, the English speakers or foreigners in Finland, and that the podcast would be the best way to do this. Podcasts were obviously going through a boom period at the time and still, I suppose, are. A lot of our audience are on the move and they want to listen to the news or listen to it while they're doing that. So the podcast was a really good fit for us and has proved to be, because we're approaching now our 300th episode after 7.5 years. So something's going right.
What is your target demographic? Is it just basically English speakers, or do you have a wider remit for who you're trying to appeal to?
I guess there's 3 target audiences or 3 main ones. The first one, primary target audience, would of course be foreigners living in Finland who are most affected by the events that happen here and would be most interested in things like changes to integration laws or getting a job in Finland or learning Finnish or a lot of the topics that we cover. And then the second would be people who are interested in Finland but live abroad. So a lot of listeners, for example, in the States who have maybe some Finnish heritage, or there's a lot of Finnophiles out there, people who are just interested in the country. Maybe they were here as a student or on Erasmus, and they've gone home, but they still have some attachment, connection to Finland. So they are a small but significant part of the listenership. And then the third would be Finns who maybe have more of an international outlook or are interested in the international perspective on the things that happen in Finland. So we do have a lot of Finnish listeners as well. Often they might be the spouse of a foreigner or something like that, or they have some vested interest in what we're talking about, but they would be the 3 main target groups.
Has that changed since the podcast started?
Well, when we first started, we thought we were primarily serving foreigners living in Finland. So the other 2 were a bit of a surprise addition to our listenership. We obviously knew they existed, but didn't know that they would be interested so much in the podcast, but it proved to be.
So how long does it take to make an average episode?
Usually we would start thinking about the idea a few weeks in advance, what's happening in the news that week, what's going to be important, what do people want to know about. I'm planning now an episode that won't be out for another 2 to 3 weeks today. I'm planning for something that... So the early stages of the planning will start then, maybe a couple of weeks in advance. And then it usually takes about a week to put one together, or 4 or 5 days. So I start working more intensively on it on Monday or Tuesday, and then it comes out on the Friday, and that will be 4 or 5 full days. There'll also be, usually we present and produce the podcast on our own, that's how it's going now at the moment. But we would have plenty of support around. There would be other members of the team contributing ideas, fact-checking, checking the script, things like that. And of course, there would be like an audio team as well. So there's a lot goes into each episode.
Is it challenging to write the episodes? Because I assume it's very like the BBC at Ule. You're meant to stay impartial.
Very challenging. Yeah, it can be. Of course, there's a lot of topics we cover which I have, personal experience of, personal interest in. A lot of my friends are affected, or even family are affected by a lot of the things that we talk about, from unemployment or integration or things like that. So yeah, I mean, they're obviously very important issues to me personally and to my near inner circle, and therefore it is sometimes difficult to not give an opinion. But at the same time, as a journalist, it is very important to be that, because it gives everything that we do much more credibility if we remain as impartial as possible and look at everything from every possible side, despite our own biases. But it is, of course, really important to be aware of your own biases and your own prejudices. And once you're aware of them, I think then you can control them.
So you also like to get your audience involved. You always have a section at the end of each podcast where you ask for people's thoughts and things. How well does that work? How much response do you get to the podcasts?
We love to get the audience involved, and it's the best thing when we get people's voices into the podcast, what people are actually thinking, what they're saying, what they want to, what's important to them. So we started this from very much from episode 1, that please tell us what you think. Please tell us what you think about this podcast. What topics should we be covering? What did you think about the topic covered this week? And some topics really hit home, and they are a wide and varied range. And some topics, not so much. Some things you would think would be very important to people aren't. And then other things tend to do really well. And they can be quite serious things, obviously, like unemployment and integration and things like that I've mentioned, but also not so serious topics. Well, Eurovision was one that kind of does surprise us, but there's a huge following.
What's been the episode you've been most proud of?
I did think you might ask this, so I was trying to think this morning. But one that stood out was actually more or less this time last year. It was November of last year. November, obviously, as I'm sure we both know, in Finland isn't the nicest time of the year. Dark, grey, miserable, cold. And I was kind of struggling for an idea for this episode that I had coming up. And I thought, why don't I look at Finnish comedy? So what do people laugh at during, how do we get through the darkness and the misery of November? Well, maybe with comedy. So I started to look at stand-up comedy in Finland. And it's a topic I was kind of interested in when I was in college in Dublin many years ago. The stand-up scene was just kind of kicking off then, and I remember I never wanted to perform, but I loved going and seeing shows and hearing what people had to say, and especially at that grassroots level, not necessarily at the bigger name comedians. But so I went to a few comedy clubs and heard some really interesting things from very interesting people. And the roots of stand-up comedy in Finland were sometime in the 90s, when a Swedish-speaking club started, because it was felt at the time that the Finnish-speaking audience weren't ready for something like stand-up comedy, because it goes against all of those stereotypes of Finnish culture of standing up on a stage with a spotlight on you and talking about your, most intimate details or things about your life or something like that. So it was felt it was very anti-Finnish, the stand-up comedy. It's really come on a long way in the past decade or so. So it was a really interesting episode, and I was very proud of that one in particular.
That's actually the only theme that we've crossed over on.
Okay.
We had an episode where I spoke to Jason DeBose, who was just starting a new comedy club in Helsinki.
Oh, yeah.
So along that sort of theme, what's been your favourite episode? So something you've really enjoyed covering?
There's many topics that are very important to me, obviously, but I really do enjoy sports. And I think I'm 15 years living in Finland, and I have to say that sports has always been the key to my integration. Joining sports teams, that's kind of my way of navigating this society. And I did an episode earlier this year, actually, about kind of what we might call minority sports in Finland, but obviously they're majority sports elsewhere in the world. So it was rugby, cricket, things like that. But it's a topic that's really important to me, and I wanted to hear how people are bringing their sports to Finland and want to play it and continue the sports that can be difficult and the challenges they face in playing these sports and growing them. Cricket obviously doesn't lend itself very well to Finnish winter. Rugby, I suppose, the same. They're kind of very much summer sports, and there's limited facilities, especially in Tampere, for other sports. Ice hockey and soccer obviously get the lion's share of the facilities and the resources, but It was amazing to hear how, regardless of the sport, everyone talked about how important it was to be able to play this game that was so important to them when they were children, when they were growing up. They've moved on, they've come, and often they discovered the sport again when they were older, and playing it then in Finland just kind of reconnects them with home to some extent. So I really liked that episode in particular.
Have there been any episodes that you've had to abandon for some reason?
Not really abandon. Maybe it hasn't quite worked out exactly as we would have liked. There was an episode about crime that we had to change the focus of because of legal issues that I won't go into, but it can happen that we start out on one path and end up on an entirely different one that we weren't expecting to see. We've kind of, I think over the years, kind of learned that in advance what is going to work and isn't going to work and where the problems might lie. But yeah, there can be some topics that we sort of maybe intentionally stay away from because we know that there could run into problems.
And have you got something special coming up to celebrate the 300th show?
We have some plans that are still in progress. We have done a couple of times live video recording of the podcast. This obviously a lot of other podcasts do this. We don't, just because of our resources and how the podcast is put together, but it's something we really want to develop. The 300th episode might be a little bit soon for that, but that would be the hope, that we could get the guests into the studio and we could do a live APN. That would be something I'd really like to do, but let's see if it works.
Well, you come from a video background, I guess. So for you, that's your sort of.
Well, yeah, that is true. Although I was on the safe side of the camera, behind the camera rather than in front of the camera. So yeah, I'd like to do it.
Well, I just want to say that my favourite episode was actually a history episode. You did an episode earlier this year called "Some of the Cold War Thought."
Yes,
and for me, that was fascinating because these little bits of history are obviously very relevant to Finland. So unless you're here, you don't find out about things like that.
Yeah.
And I find episodes that just touch a little bit on the history. I mean, that one was completely about the history of an event. But the ones that have some background and some relevant knowledge from Finland's past, I find fascinating personally.
Okay. Very much noted. I agree. I'm a bit of a history buff. My favourite podcast, apart from yours and ours, is The Rest is History. And I think that we should have more history, especially because a lot of people who've moved here as adults might not necessarily be aware that these things happened in the 70s and 80s and the relevance they have today, whereas Finnish people inherently know that these things happened and their importance. And so that was very well received, that particular episode. And it is something we would like to do more of, bringing history to the podcast, but so many things are happening in the present day that it would be difficult to go back to we very rarely have time to go back to the historic events.
Well, I think that's about it for the questions. The All Points North podcast is available through the Yle website and on all streaming platforms that I know of. People can reach out to the podcast by emailing allpointsnorth@yle.fi. Rowan, thanks a lot for giving us some more info.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you very, very much.
Today we are joined by Hanna Similä. She is the airport chaplain, pappi in Finnish, here at Helsinki Airport. Good morning.
Good morning, Heather.
All right, let's talk a little bit about who you are and what you've got. I did a little bit of research, and you have a master's in theology and theological studies from Helsinki University, and certification as a stress, tension and trauma releasing exercise supervisor. So that actually really intrigues me. Can you talk just a little bit about what that entails?
Yes, so my background before I became a reverend is that I'm former dancer. So I actually have done a lot of things with my body. So I wanted to combine these two things in my work because I'm doing quite a lot of crisis work as an airport chaplain. So I wanted to have some kind of certification to work with people and with people in crisis and people in difficult situations. And I think that TRE is a very, very good
Method,
yeah,
Okay.
Thank you, to work with people.
You're not employed by the airport, you're actually employed by the Vantaa parish or Vantaa the Vantaa
Yeah.
congregation, is that
Parish
correct?
union.
Parish union, okay.
Yeah.
But you are the airport chaplain, so
Yeah.
your days are spent at Helsinki Airport? Okay.
100%.
100%. In a nutshell, what would be the core role of the airport chaplain?
The help the individuals in different kind of situations, the passengers and also the staff members.
So anyone that is in the airport environment is your, for want of a better word, customer?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I would say so.
Helsinki-Vantaa chaplain is actually part of a wider organisation, so you have a network of chaplains. Is that correct? Like, is it a
Yes.
global network?
Yeah, International Association of Civil Airport Chaplains, IAGAC.
Say again.
IAGAC.
IAGAC. And actually, I met one of your colleagues not so long ago. I noticed that you were a project coordinator for this. Is that correct? That you did some, like, is this a new organisation or have chaplains been in airports for decades?
Not in Finland. I'm the first one. I'm the only one in Finland, but it's nothing new. For example, at the Schiphol airport, I think they've been there since 70s or something like that. So we came a bit late in Finland. But I actually worked as a project coordinator in Parish Union of Vantaa, and I kind of created the system in Finland, in Helsinki Airport.
Fantastic. It's the airport, so I don't think we can ever say anything is typical. But what would a typical working day or a working week look like for you?
Everything under the sun, I would say. Yeah.
Can you give some like concrete examples? So if someone is coming to the airport and they're feeling anxious about flying, or they're anxious about the situation that they're going to or that they're coming from, are you a resource that people can find?
Yeah. As you know, I spend afternoons here with the passengers, the rush hours, and during that time, I face all the kind of situations. But there is also situations when people are facing bigger crises, that not finding the right gate. So then, for example, the staff members can call me and ask me if I can come and spend time with that person who is in crisis. So I think that's what I do, basically.
Okay. Helsinki Airport, the first quiet room opened 2022?
2023 January. Actually,
before I
it wasn't the
started.
first one. We had one earlier, but we did it again.
Okay.
2023. Yeah.
Okay. January 23, the first quiet room came, and now November 25, the second quiet room has come. So now there is both sides of the airport, so the Schengen and the non-Schengen side. For the listeners that don't understand what that means, it's either before passport control or after passport control. But now we have a quiet room on the Schengen side. The function is the same as on the other side, that it's somewhere that people can go if they want to put out their prayer mats and pray, if they want to just take 5 and be in a nice quiet spot, that they can be there. Are there any other functions of the quiet room or the quiet space?
Yeah, I think you can meditate there also. Yeah. But I think the most important thing is that they are for all people, regardless of your worldview or something like that.
Yeah. You could say it's a non-denominational, judgment-free zone.
Yeah, there are not any symbols there
No.
or any religion or something like that.
Yeah.
So they are very inclusive rules.
That is the best word, yes.
Yeah.
So you touched on your role as helping people in the airport. So there's staff, there's people in the local area that I know people come here for lunch, they come and do their shopping here, people just come to spend time. There are, of
Or
course,
pick up the friends or
pick up
family
their
members.
friends. Yes,
Yeah.
yep. There are always those unfortunate moments where something happens in the airport environment that might be traumatic for staff, and I think you play a quite important role there in assisting staff working through those moments. Would I be correct in saying that?
Yeah.
That
I give rehearsals for the staff members For example, how to face people in crisis. And if there is crisis, I do debriefing after the crisis situations for the staff members, sometimes also for the passengers.
There have been some weddings performed in the airport. Do you have to be travelling to get married in the airport?
There has been ceremonies also for the staff members.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
That I didn't know. Okay.
Yes.
How cool is that?
Yes.
Nice. Okay. So you don't have to be travelling to have a ceremony here?
I think it helps a lot.
Sure.
If you are. Yeah. Because we don't have kind of chapel for all people here.
Yeah.
And you also have to have tickets to get through the security.
True. Yes.
Yeah, so it helps a lot if you are traveling. And usually people who want to have ceremony here, they go to the honeymoon right after the ceremony.
Okay.
So that's kind of the idea.
That makes sense. Yes.
Yeah. But people who want to get married at the airport, this is something special for them, the place, the airport.
Yeah. So there is some meaning.
Yeah.
A connection.
Connection. Yes.
Okay. Helsinki Airport, the slogan here is for smooth travelling. That they want the journey, the process that passengers go through to be as smooth and trouble-free as possible, which means that there's all of these moving parts. Do you have any hints for smooth travelling?
I think the thing that you can affect most is yourself. There was this campaign called Put Yourself on a Flight Mode.
Oh, yes. Reading the advertisements for this campaign, it's very much like, people aren't thinking about travelling and also how it affects everyone around them. So being in flight mode, that's a quite nice way to put it.
Traveling is kind of stressful situation, even though if you are traveling for holiday. So I think that you have to remember to breathe.
Yes.
That's my first hint. And the other one is avoid hurry. Take time.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. And we have like very, very beautiful airport.
We do.
Yes. And the systems are working very well. So the only thing you need to worry about is yourself. Take a cup of coffee or tea, sit down and look at the beautiful airport, the other people, and breathe. Yeah, that's the main thing. And be nice to people, because I know that staff members are facing quite a lot stressful people who are not that nice to other people. So they are here to help you.
Yes. Yes.
So I think that's very important.
Yeah.
But I know that people are also facing fear of flying. And that's the one thing where I can help the passengers.
Okay. So tell us about helping people who have a real fear of flying.
There's things that you can do at the airport, but if you have really, really bad fear of flying, please seek help for that before coming to airport. But I think the most important thing is that you tell that to the airport staff that you have a fear of flying. And you can also ask the airport chaplain to go through the systems with you, because if there's people in peace, like peaceful person with you, it actually helps you quite a lot. It helps your nervous system to calm down when there's someone else who is not in panic. We talk about the situation and we also do some bodily rehearse to help your nervous system and panic.
Breathing deeply.
Breathing deeply, that's one part. Yeah. Using cold ice,
yes.
Because that calms down the nervous system and it activates the vagus nerve, which is like the main nerve, which calms us down.
Okay.
Yeah.
That I didn't know. All right.
Yeah.
That's cool. Where can people find you on social media? Very important question in this day and age.
I think that the best way to find me is to Google lentoasemapappi because I'm the only one. So I have like many internet pages I have Finavia internet page, Vantaan seurakunnat, and the Church of Finland, and I'm also on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
Hanna Similä.
Okay. The Helsinki Airport page has your contact information, so
Yes.
that's probably the best.
Yeah, but if you need more information, you should go to the Church of Vantaa.
The Church of Vantaa.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to add that we haven't talked about that I should have asked you?
No, I would say that I'm the only one with the green sleeve at
Actually,
the airport.
This is true. So if you are looking for Hanna,
Yes.
look for the lady in green.
Yes.
Yes.
And please say hello to me because I love speaking with the people.
Actually, this is very true. So yes,
Yeah.
if you're in the airport and you see Hanna
With the green sleeve.
with the green sleeve, stop
Yeah.
and say hello. Tell her that you heard all about her on Cultural Hell podcast.
Yeah,
I should advertise the podcast.
Yeah, and I think the main thing is that you don't have to have like crisis situation because I talk with people all kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Also the happy stuff.
No, that's good. That's good.
So I'm facing people with all kind of emotions.
I read somewhere like a low threshold was something that is important, that you don't have to be like having a huge crisis of conscience to come up to Hanna, that just anything small you can approach her with, whether it's crisis-based or happy-based.
And even that I'm Lutheran, I respect your view. So you don't have to be afraid.
Atheists, agnostics, Muslims, Catholics, everybody is welcome.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.